Wow.
That's interesting.
Indeed.
I mean, he's had a little dig at Levy there, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't let me win a cup final, sort of saying,
Well, we were all bemused by that decision.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that he's always been pretty successful in cup competitions.
26 trophies he's won.
It's done
10
all right.
clubs. So, look, that's why I think most Tottenham fans would be baffled, because it looked like they got the right manager, Tottenham, when they got Mourinho or Conte. Conte is a winner as well, what he's achieved in his career as well as a manager, and it just didn't work out again. So it's got to be some sort of a problem somewhere else, isn't there? I mean,
Antonio Conte
that's what a lot of fans
will
be, Tottenham fans will be saying, well, it might be higher up where the problem is. I don't know.
Well, as we know, Antonio Conte did flag up there are issues within the club.
Yeah.
Let's speak to a Tottenham fan, because joining us right now is the host of Last Word on Spurs podcast, Ricky Sacks. Ricky, good morning. How
Morning,
are
Ricky.
you?
Good morning, Nat. Good morning, Ray. How are you guys? You well?
Yeah, well, thank you.
How do you sit then, Ricky? Because, Jose Mourinho, look, he is a winner. There's no doubt that maybe people don't enjoy the way he plays or whatever it is, but the trophies, 26 trophies in 10 clubs he's had, is some return, really, for a manager, and it didn't really work out. And Conte, another one. So what do you think the problem is?
Guys, can I be honest with you, that the club is in an utter crisis right now. I mean, in all my years supporting Tottenham, to try and not show my age, I've never known a time where there's been this mass disconnect from the very, very top downwards with the players, in relation to the fans. I mean, it just is an absolute mess. And every day you wake up with Tottenham, there is yet another soap opera, another drama around the corner. And there's not any sense of normality with regards to what is happening at the football club right now. And I do fear that it could get even worse than this. I know there's Tottenham fans listening thinking, how can it get worse than this? But it can. And I am genuinely really, really concerned about the future of the football club under the current hierarchy, where we are really floating aimlessly without any real vision, any real direction, any real purpose. And I do really, really am concerned about where Spurs are going to turn their attention to next. And when you've got managers, with no disrespect, a manager of Arne Slot's calibre, I would say, of course he's done well, obviously Feyenoord, and won, of course, the Eredivisie. But when you are being reportedly turned down by the calibre of that kind of manager, I think it just shows you the crisis, utter crisis behind the scenes at Tottenham. And whether it was down to the manager or down to Spurs not paying the compensation, it's absolutely embarrassing that what we now, with 61 days into this managerial search, of course, we knew it was 72 days before we appointed him. And I've just got to be able to say to you that I just don't see how Spurs are going to move forward and have any real success next season. And I know for a club that hasn't won a trophy for so long, as Ray mentioned there, I'm really concerned about the future of the club at the moment. I've got to be able to say that. Really, really concerned.
Okay, so if we look at the situation of Spurs right now, they are going into their final game needing to win, and also hope that Aston Villa don't get the win against Brighton, which would then mean, if that was the case and Villa do win, it will mean, I think, 13 years since you last... Well, it will be 13 years... without European football. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Going into next season. So when you're saying it can get worse, what do you mean by it can't get worse? Is it that you won't have European football for a number of seasons, or are you thinking this could be a team that's just going to be mid-table?
Yeah, I just think generally it's just, I'll be honest with you, Natalie, it's the disconnect between the very, very top of the club and the actual fan base. I've never seen such a split in my lifetime, where there's now such a toxicity around the football club. And look, we've seen in the past, obviously Arsenal have protested with obviously the board and the owners. But I've never known a case where, especially online, it's a real ferocious frustration towards the board. And I've got to say to you that I do share a lot of those frustrations with the fans, because ultimately some of the decisions that have been taken since Maurizio left the club have just simply not been right. They've employed 2 win-now managers in relation to Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte. And in my opinion, they've not given them the adequate tools to actually win now. So Spurs need to actually work out what they want to be. If you are going to go down the win-now route, you've got to give the manager the tools to win now. If you're not going to do that and you're going to have a project manager, you've got to give the manager a 4 or 5 year contract and actually genuinely give the person, whoever that's going to be, a plan as to how they can build the club back up. And I just feel, if I'm being honest with you now, looking back at the time, I was one of those fans that were maybe calling for Maurizio to leave the club because I felt the players no longer believed in the project. They were no longer running for him. But I think we've seen with Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool that, it's not completely against the idea. What you could do is you can actually back the manager and give him exactly what he needs to turn a club around. And I just feel with Tottenham, we are heading aimlessly into yet another season where we've got no real decision on Harry Kane's future with a year left. You've got players that are in their last year of their contract where Spurs desperately need to get players out the door. And the more I think about it, guys, I'll be honest with you, I love your show. Spurs, whenever it's spoken about on talkSPORT, we're just an absolute mess from top to bottom. It's a crisis. It is an absolute crisis.
Ricky, thank you for being with us this morning. It does seem as though there is a period
Lots
of
of
turmoil,
work to do,
perhaps.
A little bit like Chelsea.
It does feel like that when talking about it.
Absolutely. Chelsea are looking for the right manager as well, and the right going forward. And so I think Spurs are in the same position.
Yeah.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.